Hi, a bit of computing history for this video. This is a microprocessor MPF-I and it was made by a company called Multitech, who later renamed in 1983 to become Acer, who we've probably all heard of, who make laptops and personal computers. Now I saw this on eBay for spares or repair and I paid round about £71 for it, including postage. In the listing, he said that the MPF chip seems to be getting hot and it just displays random characters now and again when you power it up. So I think the first thing we'll do is we'll take it out of this bookcase type thing, which kind of reminds me of those things I used to get for VHS videotapes. I think my parents used to have. I used to put video cassettes in and make them look like books that you could put on a bookshelf. So we'll take it out of the case, we'll plug it in, and we'll see exactly what it's doing. There's a little bit of damage to the case, unfortunately, but I suppose, you know, it is quite major, this thing. Right, I'll get the bench power supply hooked up. I think we need to find out what polarity it is. Now I think this takes 9 volts. So let's see if we can work out what polarity it is, whether it's center negative or center positive. So we've got a voltage regulator here, 7805, and it's actually marked in ground and out. So let's go into the ground pin, and I'll just go on to continuity. And let's see if the center pin must be the positive because it goes to the input pin of this voltage regulator. Right, and I believe the original power supply was 9 volts at around about 600 milliamps. Right, I'll get the bench power supply hooked up. Right, I've got the bench power supply set up at 9 volts and 0.6 of an amp or 600 milliamps. Let's plug it in and turn the output on. And immediately the voltage has dropped and it's drawn the full 600 milliamps. So it does appear that there's some kind of short on this. Now this is the later model of the device, the last one they made, which is the 1 Plus. Before this they had the MPF-I, which had a 7-segment display, or a couple of 7-segment LED displays, and it didn't have an alphanumeric keypad. But this one's got the alphanumeric keyboard and a alphanumeric vacuum fluorescent display. So this is the posh model, let's say. So let's see what voltage we get on this voltage regulator when we switch it on again. Interesting. We shouldn't be getting 6.3 in the output. And it's all over the place, this. Let's just switch that back off. Because the 5 volt regulator should be regulating to 5 volts. I'm just going to turn this round a sec just so I can get a better look. I'm just going to switch that on again just to double check. Yeah, that doesn't seem right. Right, let's just switch that back off. I think I might get the thermal camera out and we'll just have a quick look, see what we can see. It's getting hot. Right, let's go and grab the thermal camera. And this is the Kuwait's KTIW02, which is 256 by 192 resolution. See, I haven't even got this switched on and I can still see things that are getting hot already. So let's just switch it on now. I mean, there's nothing really. I mean, the CPU is actually hotter than the chip that he said he thought was getting hot. The CPU is sort of around about 36 or 40 degrees. And a small logic chip there. And I think one of these are the peripheral controllers, which are up to 40 degrees. I'm just going to switch this back off. So there might be a few problems on this by the look of things. It's not looking particularly good. Phew, I don't know where to start with this then. I wonder if it's worth removing some of the socketed chips and then powering it up, and we'll measure the voltage on the regulator. I think that might be the way to go. At least I can try and narrow things down then. Let's grab a flat screwdriver. Let's try removing this chip, which is the EEPROM, which holds the memory. So that holds the program that the unit runs when it's first switched on. And this is the central processing unit, which is a Xialog Z80A, used in other computers such as the ZX Spectrum and ZX81, I think it was. Right. Let's see what happens now when we switch this on. Well, the current draw has gone right down to about 300 milliamps. So let's see what we're getting on this 5-volt regulator now. So we're getting 8 volts on the input. And that's still high on the output, 7 volts. I wonder if that regulator's failed. I'll just switch this off. Because that shouldn't be right. I mean, we shouldn't be getting 7 volts out of there. It should be 5 volts. That's why it's a 5-volt regulator. I wonder if I've got any 7805s. So I think we'll need to change that, because we shouldn't be getting, like I say, we should be getting 5 volts out of that. That should be regulating, and it doesn't appear to be. I'm going to have a look, see if I've got any 7805s. Well, I've had a look around and I managed to find a 5-volt regulator on one of my old boards, because I haven't got any new ones to hand. Well, if we just measure on this one, so this is the input, and we've got 9 volts going in from the bench power supply. And we measure the output, we've got 4.99 or 5 volts. So this one's working, and this one appears not to be. So let's remove this one, and we'll replace it with this one, and we'll see if there's any difference. So let's put these chips out of the way. So I wonder if the voltage regulator has blown multiple chips in this. So this might turn out to be a bit more complicated repair, depending on what chips I've got. Let's see how this comes out, and it's underneath the back of the battery holder. So I'm going to have to remove that first. Right. This is not much disassembly required on this. Just put those to one side. And the other one's over here. Actually, maybe just try to slacken this off and then just manoeuvre this around. And that allows it to get to the nut that's holding the regulator on. Put those to one side. Right, so the voltage regulator is actually on those pins here. I'll just zoom down a bit. So I'm just going to add a bit fresh solder first. I'll just get the little engineer solder sucker. Let's see if that's loosened it off or not. So I think it's caught on the middle pin. Right, so there's the old one out. I'm not sure if this one is, if the legs are going to be long enough to go in the holes properly. I might have to bolt it in place first. I think I'll get away with this. I might have to push that down a bit further. Hopefully without stabbing myself in the process. Yeah, I think we'll get away with that. I'll just tighten this up first and then we'll solder those legs up. So these tend to sell for quite a bit on eBay. I think they were used originally as a training aid in schools. But when I had a look online, there was some quite crazy prices. I mean, whether or not people actually buy them at that sort of price or not, I don't know. But I'll just bring a couple of the listings up so you can have a look. So as you can see, quite a bit of potential markup on this one. Although I'm not sure whether I'll sell it or whether I might keep it, I don't know. Right, let's just zoom out a bit. I'll hook it back up to the bench power supply and then we'll see what voltage and that we're getting now. Right. Oh, we've actually got some characters lit up on the display now. Right, so we've got 4.9 coming out now and 8.8 going in. So that's better. I wonder if those chips are getting hot now. Let's have a look. Well, there's still a bit of stuff getting hot on this board. They're the RAM chips. Right, let's try the CPU and the ROM chip back in. I'll just switch this off for a moment. Let's try the CPU first and see what the current draw is. That's probably an idea. So let's plug this in now. And the current draw's gone up slightly. Let's try this EEPROM in. Just check all the legs are in there properly. And we're drawing half an amp now, but it's still not working. Let's see what the voltage is. Let's get the meter in shot a bit better. We're still getting 5 volts on the output. So that voltage regulator was definitely faulty. But it's what other damage has it caused? Let's get the thermal camera out again, we'll just have a quick look. I might get the scope out on this and we'll see if we can see any waveforms on any of the data buses or anything. I mean, we've still got an array of chips lighting up there, which I don't think looks very good. I mean, I don't know whether that's normal, it just seems not quite right to me. I mean, that chip's 24 degrees, but that one's 38, 40. And I don't think I've got a replacement CPU or PIA chips, so I'd have to order those. I'm just trying to think what else I could do to try and diagnose the problem. We could pull that EEPROM out and I can try reading that in my EEPROM program just to check that that's okay. In fact, I can feel heat from those chips there. Those chips are definitely warm. That one's warm. That one's not really that warm. Those two are cool. That one's warm. I'll go get my EEPROM programmer. We'll just try reading that chip. We'll just see if that contains any data or the correct data or whatever, if I can find anything online. Right, I'll go and get the EEPROM programmer. Back with the EEPROM programmer, and this is the XG ECU T48, and it does quite a lot of chips and EEPROMs and just other various electronic devices, MCUs. So let's take this EEPROM out. Let's pop it in the reader here. And let's head over to the computer screen. So first we need to select the chip, which is a TMS-2764. So TMS-2764, and it's a DIP 28. And we'll hit read and see what it does. Right, well, it seems to have read some data there. So the chip does contain data. Now, one thing I have noticed is there seems to be a lot of FFs and FEs. Just going down some of these columns here. I don't know if that's normal or not, but let's see if we can find any ASCII text strings in here. Just keep scrolling down. I can't see anything as yet. So I would have thought there'll be some text in here, maybe a copyright message or something, or... No, I can see something there. I can see OR, ND. I wonder if that's supposed to be AND. Let's keep scrolling down. I can't see bits of data there. I wonder if there's any ROM dumps on the internet. I'm just going to have a quick look on the internet, see if I can see any ROM dumps or anything. So I've had a look online. I've came across this site, electricary.nl, and he's got quite an extensive write-up of all these different types of computers and all the different peripherals that you can get for them as well. Now, one of the things I did notice was he's also got a set of ROM dumps for the machine code monitor, which is the thing that the machine first boots up into, and also he's got a couple of ROM dumps for BASIC and all the manuals and everything as well. So one of the things I did see as well was the source code for the program monitor. So if we just scroll down on this, it tells us how it initializes it, and it also comes up with the bytes of the program. So at location 0000 we should have the bytes 01, 0003 and then ED A9. So let's see what we've got at those locations. Well, at 00 we've got ED739F, which is different to what we should have according to this. So I'm just wondering whether this has corrupted this EEPROM, whether it's been damaged by over voltage with the voltage regulator not working correctly. Let's just go to another location here. Location 28 should be E3 2B. So So let's go to location 28, which is here, and we've got FF, 2B, and then a load of FFs. So that's different as well. So I wonder if I've got a blank EEPROM that we can program and then try it in the machine, see if that brings it to life. So I'm just going to have a hunt around, see if I can find another EEPROM, and then we'll continue the video from there. Well, I've had a look around in my electronic component boxes and I've found a 2764. This one's made by Fujitsu and it's a different number, it's an MBM 2764. But I still think that should work if we program it. So let's pop it in the programmer, we'll check it's blank. I'll download the file from that guy's site and then we'll try programming this. Right, back over to the computer screen. So this is an MBM 2764, so let's type that in. 27C64. Right, so we've got that selected. Let's just check that it's blank. And it says there, device is blank. So now if I go to load, and there's the monitor that we've just downloaded. So we've loaded that in, as we can see. We haven't got those lines of FFs in it now. And I think there was even a text string there, yeah. We can see there it says MPF-I-Plus. And I can't remember seeing that in the other dump. Might be an idea to compare those, actually, because I did save this. So let's try programming that. I don't remember where program is. We've got the programming voltage set correctly, so let's hit prog and program. Right, that's it programmed. Right, let's get it out of the EEPROM programmer and let's try it in. Let's try and get these legs aligned. Right, that's it connected up. Let's try powering it on now and see if it does anything. No, we've still got random characters and stuff. Oh. I think that's just came on. The display is not very bright though. It actually starts off quite bright and then dims down. So I've just pressed 1 there and the display is quite bright. But if we reset there, the display sort of dims down, but it actually does seem to be doing something. Yeah, it definitely seems to be duller. And I think it's supposed to beep as well when you press a key. So I still think there's more issues on this. We don't seem to have any beep sound coming out of the speaker. And the display seems to be quite dull as well. But apart from that, it actually seems to be processing. Well, so at least we've made some progress with it. Right, let's see if we can figure out what's going on with the display and why we're not getting any sound. So online, I've managed to find some schematics for this on the same site, that Electricary. So it seems that the speaker is driven from the same pin that lights up the green LED. And if we notice, when we press a key there, the green LED does flash. So that means the transistor is probably working. So it's either the 63 ohm resistor or the speaker, I would think, for the sound. Now there's also a schematic for the display here. and it seems that the minus 30 volts that drives the display here is generated from this little transformer here, and we've got this transistor and a couple of capacitors here, and there's also a Zener diode, or Zener diode, which is probably that one there. So let's see what voltage we get on those. So if I just put the meter on here, I'll just use the voltage regulator as a ground. We're supposed to have minus 30 volts. I've got minus 24. So let's just reset this. So we've got minus 32 when it's at full brightness. And if we start typing characters, I'll just see if I can get it to do something there. We've only got minus 23 now, so the voltage is dropping as we're typing. So I'm wondering if it's one of these capacitors has failed. Right, so I'll just unplug it for now. And let's see where those capacitors are. Here and here. And I think the speaker's in the way. So let's check this speaker, I think, as well while we're on. Let's just go on to continuity. I'll just see if I can get on those pins here. There's one there. Oh, we've got meg ohms there. And I would have thought this speaker should be about 8 ohms. Or thereabouts. Right, let's remove this speaker. And then we'll have a look at the display. So the speaker is here and here. Let's put some fresh solder on that first. Let's get the little solder sucker and we'll remove those. Alright, that's the speaker removed. Let's just see what we've got on that. Right, let's open circuit. As you can see there. It's a bit of a shame. I wonder if I can get that label off to reuse it on a different speaker. Right, so we need a speaker for this. I think I'll remove those two capacitors, and they are, let's see if we can have a look. I think it said 50 volts, 33 microfarads. And indeed, 50 volts, 33 microfarads. Right, let's remove those. So we've got one just here, and one just here. Again, put some fresh solder on first. It just makes it easier to desolder. Might seem a bit counterintuitive, but that's one out. And there's the other one out. Right, I'll just get the Peak Atlas ASR 70 Gold. I mean, I think that seems okay. Let's just try this one, see if we get a similar read. I was expecting these capacitors to have failed. And we're getting round about the same reading on both. So it mightn't be the capacitors. Funnily as it happens, I was looking on that site that has the ROM dumps and that and stuff, and one of the units he had the same issue here. And he's saying the brightness fluctuated with the number of digits in the on state, which was reflected in the anode voltage, which is kind of what I've got here. Mine didn't actually go down as low as what he did, because his went down to about minus 18 volts from minus 30. And he said after making sure it wasn't caused by the dried out electrolytic capacitors, the driver transistor, the 2N2222A, was replaced with a newer one of the same type. So I think I've got some 2N treble or quadruple 2s here. So I'll see if I can find that. We'll try changing that and see if that cures the problem. Right, back with the 2N2222. You can just see it there. So let's just double check that it works correctly. I'm just going to use the DC855 that I repaired in a previous video. And that seems okay. Right, let's pop this in then and see if that cures the problem. Right, so that's the original transistor there. So those 3 pins here. And it's just fell out there. Be interesting to see if this measures any different to the other transistor. Let's just zoom out a bit. Let's see if it comes up leaky or anything. I think it had a different gain on the other transistor. I mean, it's not saying that this one's faulty, so I'm unsure on this now. So I was just checking that I've got the transistor in the right way, because you want it facing the flat end towards the power socket, like that. So let's solder that in and then we'll get the capacitor soldered back in. Right, where's the 2 capacitors now? There's a bit of solder on that one still. Right, let's see if that's made any difference to the display now then. Let's plug it back in. Hey, that's better. Yeah, that seems to be much brighter now. Excellent, that's one little job fixed. I think just onto the speaker now then. I'll just switch this back off. So that transistor was faulty, even though it actually measured correctly. It wasn't actually working right. Right, so I've had a look around and I've got a small speaker here. It's actually slightly smaller than the original one. It is going to fit in. Then again, is it going to cause any problems with shorting out here? So So I think on the original one they've got this bit of foam. I started doing that, it's like rubber gasket. So I might have to use a bit of glue or something, just attach that like that. And maybe use some legs off a resistor or something, just to elongate those two connections here. Now let's grab some glue and a couple of old resistors. I can use the legs off them. So the glue is now dried. Just use a bit of super glue to glue that bit of rubber back on. And I've attached a couple of resistor legs there. So let's see if I can get this back on in place. I think that's about it. Let's see if I can move it along a little bit. Let's try soldering that up then. Right, let's see if we get sound now then. Yes. Yeah, the flickering is just because of the camera shutter speed. I'm not actually seeing any flickering in real life, so... Right, what next then? Well, I noticed on the site they've got a basic ROM, and what you can do is if you hit Control B, it will go into basic. Now, obviously there's no basic ROM fitted here, but I think I'm going to program one. So I think I found another 2764 here. So we'll program this for basic and see if we can get basic up and running on this as well. Right, back to the computer then. So this is the basic ROM here. This is original dump of basic ROM for U3. So let's download that. I'll just save that. Let's go into the EEPROM software now. And this chip is a 27C64A. I'm not sure what make it is. I don't think it'll make a great deal of difference. Let's just see if it's blank first. So I'm going to pop it in the programmer. And we'll hit blank. So this one isn't blank. It must actually have some data in it. Let's just read it and see what it's actually got in. I don't know where this chip would have came from. 1991, 0 peripherals, Enterprises Core Limited. Net interface card initializer. So this must have been off an old network card or something, I think. Something which I no longer have. Looks like it's off an old PC network card. So I'll have to get my UV eraser and we'll have to erase this then first before we can program it. I've had the EEPROM in the EEPROM eraser for a while, so let's just see if it's blank now. Let's hit blank check. Yep, and it's blank. So let's load up this basic ROM. Here we go, basic ROM. I'll select the binary. And that's all of the data there. Right, let's hit program and let's see if it programs. And it didn't like that. Let's just try lowering the programming voltage. Let's try that now then. Right, we seem to be getting somewhere now. and it succeeded. Excellent. Right, let's try this in the machine then. Right, let's move the EEPROM program out of the way. Right, switch this on. And let's try, I think it was Control B for basic. Yes, I think that's worked. Yay, that worked. Excellent. So I think that's it then. So we've now got a fully functional MPF-1P with sound, a fixed display, a new monitor ROM and a basic ROM. Excellent, so it's all working. Well, I'm really pleased with that. So I thought I'd stick the original labels back on the EEPROM. I put a bit of tape over that one to stop light from getting into the little window there. And I put the original label back on the speaker here as well. So I think that's finished it off quite nicely, that. Right then, if you enjoyed this video, please give it the thumbs up. If you want to see more like it, please subscribe. Any comments or questions, please leave it in the comment section below. And as always, have a great day. Thanks for watching.